multiple Grammy nominees this year. Lauryn Hill's got 4, TLC's got 8, and Sean Combs 5 to 10. Get it? Like he's going to jail?
Hello everyone, if you're a new viewer, welcome. If you're a returning viewer, welcome back. If this is your second, third, fourth time watching one of my videos and you are not yet subscribed, we already go together. Okay, make it official and hit that subscribe button. Week 3 of the Diddy trial just happened, and if this is your first time watching, I am doing weekly recaps of everything that happened in the previous week because I know you guys all have lives and it's a lot to keep up with, but I got you, okay? So make sure to turn on the notification bell so you'll know when one of my recaps drop. I've done 2 previous recaps plus several other videos about Diddy, so make sure to check those ones out after this if you haven't already. On a side note, for all the millennials and Gen Z who are watching this video, isn't it crazy that that this is our OJ Simpson trial? Like they had a white Bronco and a double homicide, and we have white nail polish and Astroglide. I'm here all week, guys. I'm here all week. So I'm heavily considering going to the final week of the Diddy trial. It's not set in stone yet, but I've really been thinking about it. I want to be there to see the verdict be read live, and so that I can do a live performance of my hit song. He ain't going nowhere. He ain't going nowhere. He can't get out now. He's an inmate for life. Anyways, let's get into week 3 of the Diddy trial. So week 3 of the Diddy trial just happened. Victim 3's identity has been confirmed, and yes, it is Gina. And yes, Gina is still missing. Someone needs to go check Gina's bank accounts for any large deposits. I refuse to believe that this girl's not testifying because she's camera shy. She was fully on Tasha K's podcast talking about Diddy, so she's comfortable talking to the public. She's pretty much a quasi-public figure at this point, so I don't think she's camera shy to tell her allegations about Diddy. I think Diddy got to her, allegedly. Also, Mia's identity has been revealed, but I will get into that later. Also, Diddy's team tried to get a mistrial, and their reason is because of some testimony that they said is prejudicial, and I will get into that later. Also, I feel like I'm saying also a lot, but there's a lot of alsos. Also, Donald Trump was asked if he would pardon Diddy. Donald Trump and Diddy had a friendship in the past before Donald Trump entered politics, so people are curious to know if Donald Trump would give Diddy a pardon, and this is what he said.
Well, nobody's asked. You had to be the one to ask, Peter, but nobody's asked. But I know people are thinking about it. I know they're thinking about it. I think some people have been very close to asking. First of all, I'd look at what's happening. And I haven't been watching it too closely, although it's certainly getting a lot of coverage. I haven't seen him. I haven't spoken to him in years. He used to really like me a lot, but I think when I ran for politics, that relationship busted up. So I don't know. I would certainly look at the facts. If I think somebody was mistreated, whether they like me or don't like me, it wouldn't have any impact.
There's a lot of things that happened this week, and I'm going to have timestamps on this video so you can see who I'm going to be discussing in this video. I'm going to go in the order in which they testified, and so the first person to discuss is Capricorn Clark. Capricorn Clark is a former assistant to Diddy, but she also worked in various other roles for Diddy on and off for many years. Capricorn testified that her best friend shares children with Suge Knight, which will be relevant in a moment. According to Capricorn, she was headhunted by a New York City employment agency to work for Bad Boy Entertainment in 2004, and from there she went on to work for Diddy in various roles on and off until 2018. She testified that on her first day on the job back in 2004, Diddy, along with his security guard Uncle Paul, brought her to Grand Central Park at night, where Diddy calmly explained to her that he didn't know she had ties to Suge Knight, and if anything happened, he would have her life taken. She said as a personal assistant, she was paid $65,000 per year, and at one point, Diddy owed her $80,000 in overtime. And when HR brought this to his attention, he took the paperwork and he ripped it up. But she was never paid the $80,000 that she was owed. $80,000 back in 2004 is the equivalent of almost $139,000 today, according to the Bureau of Labor and Statistics.
What?
Yeah, so basically Diddy was like, F you and F your overtime, I ain't paying you. And the reason it's relevant is because under the RICO indictment, they listed forced labor as one of the predicate offenses. So this is why the prosecution is making mention of all of the unreasonable hours and stressful conditions that these assistants had to work under without proper compensation. So just keep that in mind. Capricorn Clark testified about an incident where she was responsible for transporting Diddy's expensive jewelry and it went missing. As a result, Diddy's security checked her home where they didn't find anything, and the next day they brought her to a building that she wasn't familiar with and they subjected her to a lie detector test. And she was told that if she failed the lie detector test, Diddy would have her thrown in the East River. Capricorn Clark testified that this interrogation lasted the full day and she was under the impression that she wasn't allowed to leave. At the end of the day, they did allow her to go home, but then they came the next day and picked her up and they did the same thing again, and they repeated this for 5 days straight. Capricorn testified that working for Diddy was so stressful she developed alopecia, which is a condition that causes hair loss. She said she often only got 4 hours of sleep while working for Diddy, maybe 6 if she was lucky, because she was required to do so much work. She also testified that she was tasked with setting up the hotel rooms with the items that Diddy needed for freak-offs, and she was also tasked with cleaning it up afterwards, which is gross. But not only is it gross, it is relevant to the RICO. As I mentioned before, Diddy was having his paid salaried staff set up these freak-offs and clean them up, which supports the government's argument that Diddy had a criminal enterprise.
Gotcha, bitch!
Now, Capricorn Clark told a story where she, Diddy, and Lauren London were at one of Diddy's properties, and Diddy told the two women that they needed a man like him. Listen to the story. So, Diddy calls Cassie over, and he begins giving her instructions. Sit down, stand up, turn around, turn back around, walk over there, go over there, pick this up, put it down, give it to me, do this, do that. He starts giving her all of these instructions, and she follows. And Diddy said, quote,
"Did you see that? You bitches won't do that. That's why you don't have a man."
I wonder if he's doing all of that for his man in prison. I'm here all week, guys. I'm here all week. Capricorn Clark testified to seeing Diddy buy, use, and distribute illegal drugs, and she also testified that on occasions it was her responsibility to meet up with these dealers to buy these illegal drugs on Diddy's behalf. In 2011, she became the creative director and manager for Cassie. At this time, they also began a friendship. In December of 2011, Capricorn Clark says she became aware Cassie and Kid Cudi were seeing each other. So one day, Capricorn Clark and Cassie are texting each other about going on a hike, and during the text exchange, Cassie asked if Kid Cudi could join them. Capricorn said it wasn't a good idea, someone might see them all together and it might get back to Diddy and they'd all be in trouble. She also instructed Cassie to delete the conversation from her phone in case Diddy saw it. Capricorn Clark testified that Diddy paid for their phones and their phone plans, so she didn't feel comfortable having these types of conversations on these devices, and so she took Cassie to Best Buy to get a burner phone. Capricorn said that in the early morning of December 22nd, 2011, there was a bang on her apartment door. Diddy was standing outside her door, furious, and pacing around with a gun in his hand. When she opened the door, Diddy asked her, "Why didn't you tell me?" She responded that she didn't know what he was talking about, and he said, "Who's Scott?" For those of you who don't know, Scott is Kid Cudi's real name, and it's kind of crazy because he doesn't look like a Scott, but he does look like a Kid Cudi. So Diddy tells her that he knows about Cassie and Kid Cudi, and he says he is going to kill him. And he tells Capricorn Clark to get dressed, "You're coming with me." And Capricorn told Diddy that she didn't want to go, and he responded, "I don't give a fuck what you want to do. Go and get dressed." Capricorn, Diddy, and Ruben, who was Diddy's security guard, got into a black Escalade and they drove to Kid Cudi's house. When they arrived, Capricorn Clark sat in the car while Diddy and Ruben were trying to gain entry into Kid Cudi's house. While that was happening, Capricorn Clark called Cassie on Cassie's burner phone and said, "Cassie, what the f***? Where are you?" And in case you haven't watched my previous video where I discussed this, Cassie was at a hotel with Kid Cudi. Capricorn told her that Diddy brought her by gunpoint to Kid Cudi's house and that he wanted to kill Kid Cudi. She also mentioned that Diddy had gotten inside the house. Capricorn Clark testified that in the background she could hear Kid Cudi getting ready to rush over to his house, and she warned him not to go because she was genuinely afraid that he would end up dead. Capricorn says that after she got off the phone with Cassie, she went into her phone and she changed the contact name for Cassie's phone number from Cassie's second phone to one of her other friends because she was afraid that if Diddy looked in her phone, he would see that she had just called Cassie. So Capricorn's sitting in the car and Diddy and the security guard come back and he confronts her and he says, "Who were you talking to?" So he had seen her on the phone. So now Diddy says, "Give me your phone," and Capricorn hands over the phone and Diddy goes and he calls back the last number that she was talking to, and he realizes that this was Cassie's burner phone. So now Diddy is big big mad. According to Capricorn Clark's testimony, at this point, Diddy's on the phone cussing at Cassie, and then Kid Cudi's car pulls up and he looks at them in their car, and then he drives off and they begin following him, and that goes on for about a minute, but then they lost him. As they were driving in the area, they then see the police pass them heading on their way to Kid Cudi's house. Capricorn Clark says at this point they left the area and they drove to the Key Club in LA, and they pulled over on the side of the road, and Diddy gets out of the car and he tells Capricorn Clark to call Cassie and tell Cassie that he's not letting Capricorn Clark go anywhere until Cassie agrees to meet up with her, Capricorn Clark. He told Capricorn that it was her and Cassie's responsibility to make sure that Kid Cudi didn't give any information to the police, otherwise he would kill all of them. So that same morning, Capricorn picks up Cassie and they go to Kid Cudi's house. They discuss what happened and they convince Kid Cudi not to give any information to the police. The two women then go to Diddy's house, where Diddy flips out on Cassie and begins kicking her. Cassie got into a fetal position and Diddy continued the assault. Capricorn said she didn't intervene because he threatened to hurt her too if she intervened. She said that she tried to get the other security guards to intervene, but they wouldn't, and then Diddy kicked her off of his property because she was trying to intervene. After this incident, Capricorn Clark continued working for Diddy, but she was eventually fired for taking an improper vacation. She was actually partying with Rihanna. She testified that she sued Diddy for unlawful termination and he settled. However, after this, she had difficulty securing employment, and so she went back to working for Diddy in 2016. Now, cross-examination was drama. The defense came in hot and they got her to admit that she was of the opinion that Cassie was no good for Diddy. She said they were toxic. The defense established that Capricorn knew Diddy and was friends with him years before she began working for him. The defense insinuated that Diddy's drug use got worse over time because of Cassie. They also brought up that in 2024, while Diddy was under federal investigation, Capricorn Clark was in contact with Diddy and was entertaining the idea of working for him again to help him rehabilitate his public image. The defense also asked Capricorn Clark if she ever had a crush on Diddy, and this chick said no. As soon as I read that, I knew exactly what was coming. A good lawyer never asks a question they don't already know the answer to. The defense pulls up a text message that she sent to Diddy where she tells him that she had the biggest crush on him before working for him. So the defense caught her in a lie. That text message that she had sent to Diddy about having a crush on him back in the day was a text message that she had sent to him in 2021. She also testified to having positive feelings towards Diddy for what he accomplished in the business world and for the barriers that he broke for other Black entrepreneurs. And while talking about this on the stand, she actually got very emotional. She also testified that she thought Cassie was beautiful but lacked talent. I mean, she's not wrong.
That's right, y'all. Come on.
I know that I shouldn't have had you waiting at all. I've been so busy.
According to Capricorn Clark, Cassie was only a hard worker sometimes, and she spent most of her time preoccupied with her relationship that she had with Diddy. The defense also argued that on the morning that Diddy showed up at her home, she wasn't forced to go. They claimed that she had previously said that she went willingly to stop him from doing something stupid. However, she denied saying that and was adamant that she went because she was forced to. Capricorn also testified that on one occasion she told Cassie that she should end her relationship with Diddy, and Cassie then responded, "Who would I date? Jay-Z is taken," insinuating that Cassie was only interested in dating wealthy men. So those are the highlights from her testimony. Her testimony is very important and it served many purposes. The prosecution has accused Diddy of kidnapping, and this was shown twice in her testimony. The first time when she was held captive for 5 days to do all of those lie detector tests, and the second time was the Kid Cudi event. They also tried to prove forced labor, especially by mentioning all of the unpaid overtime. And similar to everyone else, there was the testimony about the purchasing of drugs, the selling of drugs, the distribution of drugs, all of which is relevant to RICO. So a lot of what she said helped the prosecution, but a lot of what she said also helped the defense. Cassie has testified that Diddy prevented her from having a more robust career. However, Capricorn testified that Cassie simply wasn't talented or hardworking. And for the record, I actually heard Vlad from Vlad TV say the exact same thing about Cassie.
I know someone
Here
that
we
was
go.
working at Bad Boy during this whole time, during the whole time that she was there.
I think I know him too.
Okay, we're not going to say who it is.
Okay.
But yes, you do know.
Okay.
And he told me that when Cassie had a song that looked like it might react, that they spent the same effort pushing her music as every other artist on the label during that time.
I agree.
It just so happens that those songs didn't take off. But she had a lot of chances. She got a lot of features.
A million chances.
A million more
than everybody.
Than everyone else.
The next person to testify was Christopher Ignacio, who was an LAPD officer who responded to the break-in at Kid Cudi's home. Christopher testified that when he arrived at Kid Cudi's home, a black Escalade with tinted windows was parked outside. He couldn't see who was in the car, but it drove off shortly after he arrived and circled around the block one more time. Christopher said he got the plate number and the car was registered to Bad Boy Records. On cross-examination, the defense insinuated that it was just a coincidence that a car that belonged to Diddy's company was there, and perhaps, they were lost, and, they couldn't figure out how to get out of the neighborhood, and that's why they drove by twice, and it's just a coincidence. And he also testified that he didn't see a car chase between a Porsche and an Escalade. So his testimony was very short, and it mostly served to just back up Kid Cudi and Capricorn Clark's previous testimony. The next person to testify was Lance Jimenez, the arson investigator. They showed images to the jury of the burnt-up Porsche and the Molotov cocktail. It was also brought up that fingerprints had been taken from the Porsche. However, someone in the LAPD from another team had them destroyed without Jimenez's knowledge. He said this was unusual, and the defense objected. The jury left, and the defense raised the argument that this line of questioning was insinuating that Diddy paid off someone from the LAPD to destroy evidence, and that was prejudicial, and therefore they needed a mistrial. And to that, the judge said, nah, but I just want to point something out. This is exactly what Lil Rod said in his lawsuit against Diddy. Lil Rod alleged that Diddy's head of security, Fahim Muhammad, had significant connections within law enforcement, particularly in the LAPD. Lil Rod claims that Fahim Muhammad could make problems and people disappear. And in that lawsuit, Lil Rod mentioned a shooting that the LAPD was complicit in covering up for Diddy. I discussed that in more details in my other Diddy video, which I will link down below in case you want to check it out after this. It is actually very possible that Diddy paid someone off to have those fingerprints destroyed, just saying. Lance Jimenez continued his testimony and said that the arson investigation remains open because none of the witnesses have cooperated, i.e. Cassie and Capricorn Clark. On cross-examination, it was mentioned that there was female DNA on the Molotov cocktail and that there was a glove in the backseat of the car that wasn't tested. However, that glove belonged to Kid Cudi, so they didn't feel it was necessary to test it. In summary, that was his testimony, and once again, the purpose was just to corroborate some of the previous testimony that we've already heard. The next person to testify was Deonte Nash. He is a celebrity stylist and a close friend to Cassie Ventura, and they are still friends to this day. He began working as a stylist for Cassie and Diddy in 2008, and he was with Cassie almost every day. Deonte said Diddy would often beat Cassie. He would threaten to not put her music out. He would threaten to send her freak-off tapes to her parents and to her parents' work to get them fired. During his testimony, Deonte recalled the story from a Vanity Fair party back in 2014. Deonte styled Cassie for this event, and according to his testimony, her hair looked bomb. However, the defense objected, and the judge overruled. Diddy's team does too much. They object to everything. Deonte said that Cassie's hair looked bomb, but Diddy was pissed. And so he grabbed Deonte by his jacket, and he lifted him up, and he's like, I told you that Cassie needs to wear her hair up. And so they all went to the bathroom, and they all, they got some hairpins, and they put Cassie's hair up, and they tried to make it look the way that Diddy wanted. And Diddy looked at her, and then he agreed that her hair looked better down. And so then they had to change it back. Deonte also recalled an incident that took place in 2013 when he and Mia were helping Cassie get ready to go to the OVO Fest in Toronto. They were in her apartment. Cassie was sleeping on the couch while Deonte was packing her bags, and there was a knock at the door, and when Deonte opened it, Diddy was standing there pissed. He cussed at Cassie for not answering her phone and dragged her by her hair off the couch and began hitting her. Cassie got away, and both her, Mia, and Deonte ran into her room and tried to close the door, but Diddy pushed it open, and he then continued to attack Cassie. So Deonte says that he jumped on Diddy's back, but then he got thrown off, and then Mia jumped onto Diddy's back and she got thrown off. And what is crazy about this is that this is like the first time that anyone has testified to actually coming to Cassie's defense. All of the other witnesses who have testified so far said that they just let Diddy do it. These are the first two people, Deonte and Mia, who actually stood up for Cassie. Now, according to Deonte, Diddy continued to attack Cassie, and during the attack, she hit her head on the bed, causing an injury to her eyebrow. Deonte was about to call 911, but was told not to, and Diddy had his security guard take Cassie to a plastic surgeon to treat her wounds. Deonte testified to a separate event where they were spending the evening at Cassie's apartment when Diddy arrived. He took Cassie into another room, and when they came out, he was upset and he was pulling Cassie by the hair and shoving her, and he demanded that the two of them get out of his apartment. He viewed it as his apartment because he was the one paying for it. So he's telling them, take your broke ass out of my apartment and go right off into the sunset. So Deonte and Cassie left, and as they were driving off, Diddy stopped them, and he threatened to put out one of Cassie's freak-off tapes. Cassie was in tears over this. And as the two of them were driving to Deonte's house, he said to her, well, who cares? Let him put the tapes out because he is on them too. And then Cassie corrected him and she said, no, he's not on the tapes because he is the one doing the taping. He's behind the camera. And Cassie also told Deonte that she didn't want to have sex with these men, but she did it because of Diddy. On a side note, back in 2010, 50 Cent received videos and pictures of Cassie having sex with another man, and he contacted Diddy about it because at the time, the two men were on good terms and he wanted to give Diddy a heads up. 50 Cent says that when he showed Diddy what was sent to him, Diddy didn't seem concerned, which was suspicious to 50 Cent. 50 said that when he looked at the images, it didn't appear like Cassie wanted to be in the photos. He said he was under the impression that it was happening because Diddy was the one orchestrating it. And he thought that Diddy was the one who sent him the images, hoping that 50 Cent would leak it. However, 50 Cent didn't end up doing it because it didn't sit right with him.
Matter of fact, they sent me the girl pictures, like pictures of this girl, like, not the shit that y'all saw. Worse, way worse. All that, and I called the nigga, I said, yo, you fucking with this girl? Like, you really, like, you like her like that? And he was like, yeah, that's my girl. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna send you something. You look at it, you call me back. I sent him the photos, the pictures and everything. And the nigga called back and was like, yo, thanks, man. Yo, I really appreciate that. Yo, where you get these shits from? And I said, you know, like, because they know, like, if something crazy is going on, if they send it to me, I'll make sure it get out there. Like, as far as this 50.com is concerned.
Yeah, yep.
And those other properties. So they sent it to me. But, you know, I really kind of felt like those photographs was not happening because of Cassie. I felt like they was happening because of Puffy.
So back to Deonte. He testified to witnessing Diddy abuse Cassie on several occasions. He testified to seeing her with bruises on her face and on her body, and they were caused by Diddy. He said on many occasions the two of them would hide away in hotels to get away from Diddy. He also testified that on many occasions he was present with Cassie as she was packing her duffel bag to head to a freak-off, and on many occasions she told him that she didn't want to go but Diddy was making her do it. Deonte testified that on Cassie's 29th birthday, she left with Diddy to go to a hotel for a freak-off. He overheard Cassie tell Diddy that she didn't want to go, but Diddy got upset and said that he does so much for her. And this corroborates Cassie's testimony where she said on her 29th birthday, Diddy forced her to do a freak-off that she didn't want to do. She just wanted to spend her birthday with her friends, but Diddy wouldn't let her do it. Deonte testified that after Cassie and Diddy broke up, he continued to have friendly contact with Diddy, and he says he doesn't hate Diddy. On cross-examination, it was pointed out that Deonte didn't want to be there. He, like many of the other witnesses, had been subpoenaed and he had no choice but to appear in court. The defense also insinuated that Diddy wasn't controlling Cassie's looks as a form of domestic abuse, but rather because that was his artist and he was invested in making sure that she looked good at all times. They also insinuated that he wasn't preventing Cassie from having a music career because he was the one paying for studio time that she used often throughout their relationship. It also came up that Deonte was the one who set up Cassie and Michael B. Jordan. In his words, he fine, she fine, so why not? He said at the time Cassie and Diddy were broken up, and so to him it made sense. So that in summary was his testimony. His testimony was pretty effective at supporting Cassie's claims that she didn't want to do the freak-offs, that she was being coerced to do it, and that her and her family were being blackmailed with these tapes. The next person to testify is a victim. Now this is the second victim to testify. The first victim was Cassie, and now we have the second victim who is going by the pseudonym Mia. Mia has been granted an order of protection, so the sketch artists are not allowed to draw her face, phones are not allowed in the courtroom while she's testifying, and no one is allowed to publish her identity. However, this is 2025 and the internet never sleeps. People have already outed Mia's identity, and it wasn't very difficult to figure out who she is. She testified that while working for Diddy, she pitched a show to ABC about her life as a personal assistant to a mogul from the streets. And so when you search for that in Google, this article comes up. So it's no secret who this woman is. I'm not going to say her name here, but if you want to know who she might be, there you go. Something else that came up this week was that the defense wanted to show a video to the jury. The reason being because when Mia was testifying, she was very quiet and timid and nervous, and she cried a lot on the stand, and she kept stumbling over her words, and she was stuttering. And to be honest, reading the transcripts was a little annoying because they included all of those stumbles and stutters in the transcripts. But the defense has argued that the way she is presenting herself in court is not her normal affect, and they wanted to show a video to the jury of Mia in her normal self. However, the judge denied this request. The prosecution also offered to shorten the witness list and speed up the trial so that it can end sooner, but the defense says that they want to go the full 8 weeks. They want to take all of the opportunity to defend their client. Diddy is really fighting for his life. So with that being said, let's get into Mia's testimony. Now, Mia began working for Diddy in 2009, and she worked for him until 2018. And she described the interview process as having multiple stages, and in the final stage, she was brought by his head of human resources to his apartment, and when Diddy opened the door, he was standing there in his underwear. And then Mia went into Diddy's apartment to continue the interview, and eventually he did put on clothes. Mia says she was told her schedule would be 40 hours per week and that her pay would be $55,000 per year, but in actuality, her pay was $50,000 per year, and she worked way more than 40 hours each week. On her very first day of work, she worked for 24 hours straight. Mia testified that many times she was required to spend overnights at Diddy's house as a part of her role, and she wasn't allowed to leave. Even if Diddy was sleeping, she was expected to stay in his house, and when she did leave, the security would go after her. Mia testified that working for Diddy was chaotic, and at times he was violent towards her. He had thrown things at her, such as a computer and a bowl of spaghetti. He threw her against a wall. He threw her into a pool. He slammed her arm into a door, and he essayed her on more than one occasion. Mia testified that on multiple occasions it was her responsibility to set up his hotel rooms with items such as baby oil, candles, condoms, Astroglide, lighting, and thousands of dollars in cash. She was also responsible for cleaning up the hotel room afterwards. She testified to having to clean up things like baby oil, candle wax, broken glass, and even on occasion blood. Diddy had told her that it was period blood. This man has no shame. Mia testified that in 2013, when Diddy started Revolt Films, she became the director of development for the company. This was a higher paying position that came with bonuses, although she often wasn't paid the bonuses she was promised. Mia testified that on several occasions she was suspended without pay for making simple mistakes like preparing the wrong workout outfit for Diddy or for going somewhere without his permission. She testified that Diddy used her and other staff members to keep tabs on Cassie's movements 24/7, and he would get enraged if Cassie went places without his permission or didn't answer his calls. Mia testified that she often saw Diddy be violent towards Cassie, but Cassie never fought back. Mia also testified about the incident where both her and Deonte jumped on Diddy's back to try to help Cassie, and so this was important because it corroborated both Cassie and Deonte's story about what happened that day with Diddy. Mia also corroborated a story I mentioned in my week 2 video. She was with Cassie the night that Cassie snuck out to go to a private party at Prince's house. At the party, they bumped into Diddy, and they left the party immediately. They tried to hide in the bushes, but Diddy caught them, and Diddy got into a tussle with Cassie on the ground. Prince's security guards intervened. The two women left. Cassie returned to the Beverly Hills Hotel. Mia went to a different hotel, and we know from Cassie's testimony and from Mila's testimony that Diddy came back to the Beverly Hills Hotel where he attacked Cassie at the hotel. As a result of going to this party, Mia was suspended without pay for insubordination. Mia told another story where she went on a trip to Turks and Caicos with Diddy and Cassie, and on the trip, there was a day that Mia was sleeping in her room and woke up when Cassie ran into her room screaming for help. She said, "He's trying to kill me." And the two women moved the furniture to barricade the door, and Diddy began banging on the door, trying to gain entry. Mia said her room also had a door which led onto an outside porch, so the two women exited from the other door and ran to the beach to hide from Diddy. Another incident that Mia testified to happened in 2013. Mia testified that Diddy took her phone and ran into the men's washroom at Revolt Network. Mia said that she chased after him and was partially inside the bathroom when Diddy slammed the door on her arm. At first she thought it was an accident, but then Diddy continued doing it multiple times. When he eventually returned her phone, he said that he had sent himself the nude photos she had of herself on her phone, so now he had blackmail to use against her. She said she was relieved when he said this because she knew he was lying. The main reason she didn't want him to have her phone was because her and other staff members had been talking shit about him through text, and she was afraid that if he went through her phone he would see it. But based off his reaction, she knew that he didn't see it. Mia said that she witnessed violence against Cassie from Diddy on multiple occasions, but she never called the police because she believed Diddy's authority was above the police. Mia testified that there were times where it was her responsibility to stay with Cassie in hotel rooms while her injuries healed because they were too obvious to be concealed with makeup. Mia also testified that there was one occasion where she was in a car with Cassie, and Cassie received a text message from Diddy, and she reads it and she goes, "Ugh." And Cassie had explained to Mia that Diddy wanted to have a hotel night, and Cassie didn't want to go, and she felt physically sick at the thought of having to do it. Mia also testified that prior to working for Diddy, she never used drugs, but as an employee, she had done it a handful of times because Diddy supplied it to her. She said there was one occasion where they were all partying and Diddy offered her some booger sugar, and she didn't want to take it. And Diddy insisted, and so she pretended to sniff it up her nose, and Diddy realized that she had pretended, and so he separated out a specific quantity just for her, and he demanded that she take it. So she didn't want to upset Diddy, and she snorted the booger sugar, and she said she was scared, so like immediately after she went away and she blew it out her nose because she didn't want to take the booger sugar. Mia also testified that on multiple occasions Diddy essayed her, but she never told Cassie. She never told anybody. She said on Diddy's 40th birthday, he had a party at the Plaza Hotel. Initially, various staff members were there in the room, but then he had them leave and it was just the two of them. At the time, she had only been working for him for a few months, and he had said that he wanted to congratulate her on being such a good employee, and he offered to take shots with her to celebrate his birthday. She said he continued talking and went on to kiss her, but she didn't want the kiss. He put his hands up her dress, and the next thing she remembers was being on the couch and the sun was coming up. So according to her, she completely blacked out. She said after this, she acted like nothing happened. She also said there was another occasion where she was sleeping in the guest room in one of Diddy's houses, and she woke up to Diddy forcing himself on her. She also testified to a separate occasion where she was in his closet on the floor packing a bag, and she looked up and saw Diddy's Diddy in her face, and she says that he forced himself on her and he assaulted her. She mentioned one other incident where they were flying on a private plane. She went to the bathroom and Diddy followed her into the bathroom, and she says that she had tried to dissuade Diddy from doing anything and saying, "No, people are gonna hear us, I don't think we should." And she says Diddy didn't listen to her and he SA'd her, although she doesn't remember what happened specifically. Mia said she never spoke up about what happened to her because she feared it would ruin her life. She felt that she would be punished if she had reported the incidents to HR. In 2017, she finally quit working for Diddy and retained a lawyer to negotiate unpaid wages and severance. She was awarded $400,000, which she split with her lawyer. Mia testified that when Cassie's allegations became public and Diddy was being investigated, both he and his security guard D-Rock reached out to her and offered her money to defend Diddy's character, but she ignored the messages. She says she was traumatized by Diddy and wanted nothing to do with him. On cross-examination, the defense painted the picture that Mia wasn't as miserable working for Diddy as she made it seem during her testimony, and they presented social media posts as evidence. Posts where she was bragging about working for Diddy. For example, quote, "Just the #1 guy on Forbes list getting me a vanilla latte, no big deal." In another post, she credited Diddy with, quote, "always letting me give birth to my dreams." And along with that caption, she shared a video clip of her giving birth, with Diddy delivering the baby. Now this was from a Funny or Die skit that Mia and Diddy were both a part of, and she was thanking Diddy for this opportunity. So the defense hammered her on this. If this man R-worded you, why would you post something like this? And her response was that she didn't want people to know the misery that she was in. She also posted, quote, "shout out to my mentor Diddy," the same day that she claims he assaulted her. Another post read, quote, Thank you for being the good kind of crazy and continuing to inspire me every single day. They showed pictures of her at Burning Man with Diddy, at a private event for Muhammad Ali with Diddy, messages where she says, I love you to Diddy, and she calls him a brother, calls him a friend, a mentor. The defense asked, how do you have a good moment with Sean Combs when you are terrified of him? How do you forget about being woken up with a man on top of you, getting his way with you? And Mia responded, because it's too horrible to think about. And the defense responded, you think about it all the time, you said. How are you best friends with a person who is treating you this way? And Mia responded, I guess you'd have to speak to my therapist. The defense brought up that Mia accused Diddy of assaulting her at his 40th birthday party, but just a year later, she gave him a shout out on his birthday on social media, and she included a photo of Diddy holding his crotch in her birthday shout out. On Diddy's 45th birthday, Mia gave Diddy a scrapbook that she had personally made herself. She said that Diddy had confided in her that being so wealthy, nothing excited him anymore. Life had lost all of its meaning, and so she created this very sentimental gift to give to him because she felt it was something meaningful to give to a man who could buy anything that he wanted with his money. Ultimately, the defense accused her of fabricating the stories of assault. So that concludes what happened during week 3. Mia's not done testifying, so she's going to be back on Monday, so I'll cover the rest of her testimony in next week's video. What are my thoughts? As I read through the transcript, her speech pattern seemed inauthentic to me, even for someone who's extremely traumatized. Like, there were several instances where the judge had to interject and just say next question because she wasn't giving coherent answers. She was stumbling, she was taking forever, she was stuttering, even through very basic, non-invasive questions. Like, here's an example. And then Nia was given off for something. Then I was like held responsible for not, you know, if I guess, got the message a little too late. I rarely ever got to, like, run errands. I just felt like I was bearing the brunt of everything, and that I could never get, a free moment. That speech pattern was present throughout her entire testimony, and if I'm being honest, it was giving Amber Heard.
My dog stepped on a bee. We went to the vet.
Maybe if I was there in the courtroom to hear it myself, I would feel differently. I'm only going based off of what I read and going based off of the fact that the defense has literally accused her of pretending. Like, she doesn't normally talk like that. Anyways, that is all I have for this video. What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comment section down below. I would like to give a special thanks to those of you who are supporting me on Patreon and those of you who are paid members here on YouTube. I really appreciate your support. If any of you guys would like to support me as well, all of my links will be in the description box down below. If you liked this video, please don't forget to hit the like button because when you do, it helps me in the algorithm. If you are not yet subscribed, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button. If you liked this video and you'd like to see 2 more like it, I will have 2 more videos for you in the end cards. I will see you guys in the next one. Take care. Bye.